Here we go.
Do it.
Okay, cool.
Here we go.
Welcome back to Coffin Talkin', where we unravel the mysteries, embrace the peculiar, and find humor in the unconventional world of funerals and death. For those of you who are new here, I'm Holly, and I'm here with my father, the world-renowned A-lister mortician, Frank.
Hi, Holly. I don't know if it's world-renowned because, Switzerland still is claiming independence, so they are not. They are not allowing the podcast to enter their sphere. So we can't be.
We'll get it there somehow. We have rebel forces there.
That's right, and we're getting intel every single day.
That's right. So be on the lookout.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. I can't complain. It was good. Went to a movie for the first time in, I'm going to say years last night.
Years?
Yeah, it's been a while. It has been a while since we've been to. I don't know. It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. Either way, I was a little disappointed in the fact that the movie said it started at 4:10, and at 4:40 we actually got the introduction into the movie. We were there.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Oh my gosh. They really get their money's worth with previews these days.
Well, not only that, it's all commercials. I mean, there's tons of commercials.
Oh, really?
Tons of car commercials, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, trying to get your business advertised on the big screen. And
are you buying a new car from there?
No.
Oh, it didn't work then.
It did not. I remember that there were car commercials. I couldn't tell you the car.
Oh.
So
not even effective car commercials.
No. I guess it would be if I was looking for one, but I wasn't.
Wow.
And I'm not. So that was us. That's us in a nutshell. Yeah.
Well, that's good though. Was the movie good?
It was excellent.
Do you care
It was really good. What's that?
I said, do you care to share?
Well, the movie's on Ronald Reagan. And for those of you, I grew up with Ronald Reagan. And so as president, so for those of you that may not know much about Ronald Reagan, it was very good. And even leaving the movie, there were some things that that I learned about Ronald Reagan that I did not understand completely prior to the movie, but everyone knows how that ended. And so it wouldn't really be a spoiler alert in any way possible, but it's it was a very good, I guess, true to life documentary on Ronald Reagan's life.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Very good president, and see a lot of similarities in today's politics, which is sad. It would be nice to just be able to evolve and keep evolving forward as opposed to keep going back.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's it.
The thing about history, apparently it always repeats itself.
It rhymes.
It rhymes?
It rhymes.
Oh, it rhymes with itself. I've never heard that.
Doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it will rhyme.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. I don't remember who said it, but it's not my quote.
You should copyright it.
Thank you very much. I'm just letting you know that Frank said that quote. Yeah.
From Frank. Maybe that'll get us into Switzerland.
Are you into rhyming, Switzerland?
Can I offer you this?
Oh, brother. What about you?
This week was good. It was mostly a sick week where Kate and I traded off days being sick. So I honestly don't have a lot of updates from this week, but everyone's good in good health now. So that's good. Moving forward. It
is good. And Caden is still enjoying and doing well in school.
Oh yeah, he's doing great. And he's loving it.
Good.
It is interesting though, where everything that we're talking about now, like we'll just be having a conversation and he'll go, I wonder what the legal ramifications are for that. Or what was the precedent for that?
Oh boy.
Or
and so it begins.
That's not actually illegal. Yeah.
Well, I do now.
Yeah, so it's really funny. He's really enthralled with it and doing well, and he's loving the course material, so that's good.
But that's been my week. That's been, hopefully you're feeling better.
I am feeling better.
Good. You look good.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, that's all I got.
Okay. All right, great. Well, let's see what I got.
Okay. Well, then let's be frank.
All right, Holly, thank you. So today I'm going to share a little bit of a interesting happening of what took place about, and I'm not joking, this had to be about 40 years ago.
Oh my
right
God.
about the time that I was starting the industry, and it revolved around a husband and wife. So I was in the prep room, and I saw inadvertently, because we have scraps of paper everywhere and different things that are in different locations. And I saw written on a piece of paper a given name. And I thought to myself, and I was looking at the name and I'm thinking, why do I have this name written on a piece of paper? And I'm going through individuals' names that we have currently in house at the mortuary, and no names matched this name. And so I just took the piece of paper and I just nonchalantly threw it away. And so went on about my day and activity when a young couple comes in, a husband and wife who were probably in their mid-20s. And he is there to take care of arrangements for his mother and his father. Oh. And I said, oh, they passed away together? And he said, yes, unfortunately. So he went on to explain the experience. So apparently his father, who was very wealthy in the area, had come home to have lunch with his wife, and they were both aged. They were probably, they had children late in life, and this mid-20-year-old son was their one and only son. And they were in their 60s when they passed away. So they were in their 40s when they conceived and had the child. So he was talking about his father coming home from lunch and to have lunch with his mother, which he did on a daily basis. And on this particular day, he walked in and noticed his wife tied to a chair.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so he immediately went for the phone to call 911 when he was struck from behind. And he went to the floor and only regained consciousness when he realized that he too now was tied to a chair.
Oh my gosh.
And apparently, according to the reports that were given, there were two men dressed in total black, except one was wearing red jeans. And the rest of it was total black, head to foot, no, hands covered, everything was covered. And they started ranting and raving at this older couple. And one of them leveled a gun to this gentleman's wife, to her head, and to where, there was enough space between the two, but it wasn't a point blank range. Yeah. But he could see what was happening. And so he rocked his chair. And when the gun went off, it hit him in the head. And so he was trying to protect his wife, and down to the floor he went dead. And then without any hesitation, they then shot her. So that is kind of the scene which we're going to base this story on. So it's kind of a sad story, but interesting. It has a little bit of an interesting twist to it. So he came in, explained the story, what was going on, and we went on ahead and arranged for a double type viewing and then a double burial. So, and I don't know if you've ever, a lot of people have been to a funeral service where there's one casket. Mm-hmm. When there's two, it becomes sombering. When there's three or more, it becomes devastating. So here we walked into this huge open area church vestibule area where the two caskets were sitting side by side. They chose not to have the caskets open, even though they both looked great. I thought.
Did you do their embalmings?
Yeah, I thought they looked fantastic. So we closed the casket. The one son did want to take a look, and he was the only one that saw both his parents, but he said, yeah, we'll go ahead and keep it closed. So closed the caskets on both, and then there were both heads. So I don't know how else to explain it other than the fact that to put them head to head, one casket had to be backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So they were both head to head in a V shape.
Okay.
Now, before we get to the service, after I had gone to and finished the arrangement, sorry about bouncing around, but it's important that I hope you can follow me. So after the arrangement, I walked back into the office and I was just doing some initial paperwork for them to sign before they left. And lo and behold, when I looked down at the desk, I see written on my pad the name David. But that's the name, that was the name that was initially thrown away in the prep room. And I look at him, I look at my cohort in the building and I say, hey, did you write this name on my pad? And he comes over and he looks at it and he goes, no, I didn't. And I said, that's odd. That's what I was thinking. That's odd. And so I went on ahead and because if there's too many notes on my pad, I get confused. So I just went on and crossed the name out because I didn't want to keep focusing on the name, thinking, where's that name coming from and why do I have that name?
Wait, that wasn't the name of the deceased man?
No.
No. Okay.
So went back in and I started talking to them again after they signed the paperwork. And I said, well, did they find the people that had actually committed the murders? And he said, no, they're still working. They have ideas.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but they don't know who committed the murder. And I said, well, who are they looking at? He said, well, first of all, they looked at me. Of course they did. Right?
Of course they did.
And so he said, we've been ruled out, thankfully, which is again, we've talked about this in the past, but it again creates a wave when they start looking at family, and especially if it's only one child as the family, creates a wave when coming into the funeral process, because now with the investigation going on, you don't know if the son, in this case, can continue on with making the arrangements or if he's going to go to jail or what the case might be. And so you have to kind of put everything on hold. You just kind of wait for the investigation to come to a point where they allow and 40 years ago was terrible. It was terrible. We couldn't move forward. Nothing was moving. We couldn't do anything without the permission of the next of kin.
Yeah, so I'm going to play Caden for a second. Legally, could you not, because they were a suspect and they're like, okay, let's get rid of the evidence. Let's cremate them. Could you not if they were a suspect?
So yeah, we would not be able to do anything as far as cremations are concerned. And it was to the point where it's so interlocked that as soon as an investigation starts and they have a next of kin named as a primary suspect, if that person's name is listed on any of the documentation, everything stops because they have to wait to see if that person's been cleared to actually continue with the making the funeral arrangements and what they wanted, or if they end up going to prison, then the court has to appoint the new guardian. So that is the reason why the hesitation takes place. Okay. So not so much today, but 40 years ago it was terrible. So I went in and I started walking and found out that the investigators had no leads whatsoever. Well, as we continued talking, he said, well, I'll get back with you tomorrow. And so they left. The following day he called me and I said, so how are things progressing? And he says, well, they found a footprint in one of the gardens that my parents kept. So we hope that will lead somewhere.
Yeah.
So the footprint was cast. And they were asking all of the family members, grandkids, so forth, what kind of shoes they wore. And if, in fact, they were any type of the size that this particular shoe had. Well, no one matched the shoe print. And so that was a good sign for the family. That's good. Yeah. So we continued on with the service. And as I went back into the office and I looked at that crossed out name on my pad, I continued to type in and write what I needed to write because we didn't have computers that were being used at that point for funeral services. So everything was handwritten on paper. Mm-hmm. And I was just writing things down. And as I continued to write what they were requesting and have done, I was making calls and ordering things. The first person I called, the person that answered the phone identified himself as the name that was written on my pad. And I thought, that's pretty interesting for me.
That's kind of...
Yeah, I had never really put it all together yet. And so I went on ahead and I ordered what I needed to order. And then I hung up the phone. My cohorts ordered in lunch. And so but they didn't really deliver. So we had to go buy it. I mean, we had to go to the store to pick it up and bring it back. So the person, and I was assigned to go pick up the lunch, which was fine. So the person that actually, the person that helped me, her name, it was a female. And then she said, "Oh, but your order is being handled by," and she gave me this name, the same name. And it's a common name, so I didn't really think much about it.
Yeah.
So I called this son, and I said, just in casual conversation, I just happened to just mention, "So where's the shoe going? Any prospects on the shoe?" And I said, and he said no. He said nothing as of yet. And I said, "Hey, do you happen to have a friend named David?" And he stopped and he paused and he said, "Why would you mention him?" And I just kind of went through a course of what I just kind of explained to you. I said, it's unusual, but this name is coming up everywhere. I mean, everywhere. And so I'm just wondering if it has anything to do with what happened to your mother and father. And he goes, "That's very interesting because we hadn't spoke. Apparently he was a friend of the family. We hadn't spoke with him for close to a year. And now all of a sudden his name's coming up everywhere." And I said, "What do you mean by everywhere?" And he said, "Well, you just mentioned it." He said, "The individuals," he said, "in your father's notebook or pad," I guess he had like a daily schedule book, had the name that was written in the book, but the page was torn out, but they were able to shadow, I guess, with a pencil. They do it, it's called a shadow. Yeah. So they run that pencil over the top of it. We're able to come up with this name. Mm-hmm. And so he's all of a sudden, he said, "You're the second person that's asked me if I know this individual." So the only individual I knew by that name was a past friend. And I know that he had done some business dealings with my father. And so he said, I gave him the address, the last address that I had for him. So they went out and talked to him. And as they were talking with him, another gentleman walked into the room and found out that the two of them were kind of like roommates together. Mm. And so the police started investigating further and further, and they left there and a little uncomfortable, thinking that maybe something was being hidden from the investigators. From
the police. So they were being shifty.
Yeah. And so they continued on with their investigation, and to come find out that apparently, and maybe Caden could help us with this as well, but if trash is on the street, it's for anybody's use, right? I mean, you can go through it, and do whatever the case might be. And so they apparently, as they were leaving their house, saw this garbage bin on the outside on the street.
Oh.
So they start going through it. And what did they find?
A gun.
No.
Red pants.
No.
The shoe.
Yes. A pair of shoes. I'm certainly glad you're listening to the entire story, though, Holly. So they found this shoe, and it had been mud caked. And so they took the pair of shoes and they took them back, and it was a perfect print to the cast that was made at the house. So now they had some sort of evidence in recognizing now how do they catch the individuals in admitting and to getting them to admit to what they did.
Yeah.
So that became another process. We went on ahead and had the funeral services. And these two gentlemen were at the service.
The audacity. Oh my gosh.
As the service continued, these individuals, they opened up the floor, and you've been probably to some of these services where they open up the services to individuals to come up and just offer their final memories or experiences that they had with the deceased individuals.
Uh-huh.
So one of them, in this course of open air meeting, went up and he made this comment. And I didn't pick up on it. No one would have picked up on it, excepting for those that might have been investigating. And they investigated. And I guess that's kind of what cops will do. They'll go to the services because most people, when they commit a crime, will be in attendance to the actual service, which I guess that's a thing.
Really?
Where they go to the service just to kind of brazenly make their presence known, but realize that they're the ones that should be under scrutiny, but they feel like they've gotten away with it, so they feel comfortable going to the service.
Oh my
I don't know
gosh.
how else to say it, but yeah, there's another episode that we're going to talk about on that. So this one gentleman stands up and he walks up to the podium and he starts talking. But in the course of his discussion, he said, yeah, the one thing I really, now remember, okay, the one thing I really like most about Mrs. So-and-so, and what I remembered the most is that she was always changing her hair color and her hairstyle and the shortness and the length of her hair. And I really liked that she kept it short. Now, if they hadn't seen each other for a year,
how would you know?
How would you know that her hair was short? Number one.
There was not Facebook at this time, sir.
So are you saying that she would have posted her new hairstyle?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But yeah, anyway, he mentions that. And then he mentioned about a tie that was being worn by the individual that was actually shot, her husband. And I don't remember the exact comment that he made regarding a specific tie, but the tie that he mentioned and referenced was worn by the individual that was shot.
At the time that he was shot.
At the time he was shot.
Oh my God, how stupid can you be?
Yeah. And so anyway, the service went on, and the second person didn't say anything. But the service went on, and again, acting just as calm as cool as could be. They went to the cemetery. We had the services at the cemetery. Once the final amen was said, 4 or 5 officers came up of the street out of their cars, unmarked, and put handcuffs on this gentleman that had made these comments in the cemetery at the service, and was walking away. And he said, "Hey, I'm not the only one. He also."
So he's just confessing right now.
Right as he's walking to the car. And so everyone just went dead silent and then started, oh my gosh, yelling verbal assaults at these two people, at the individuals that were actually there and witnessing them being walked away. But the name of the individual that was actually being carted with handcuffs was the one that had been given, or that I had seen in the prep room.
Yeah.
That I had thrown away, that was on my pad, the names that were said twice. So there was a reason why they came forward. And so I look at this right now. And so for the family, in my estimation, the one thing that would have caused them the greatest comfort was to know that they actually had the right individual.
Right.
Because not only had he now confessed to it, but they knew there were 2 individuals that were in the house.
You got both of them.
And he ratted the friend as soon as he was taken.
Immediately.
Almost immediately. Well, within 30 seconds. Within the walk. Anyway, looking back at him and yelling. And the guy tried to run. I mean, seriously.
Oh, stupid.
So, anyway, so I think that this is an interesting look at how the individuals that actually have passed away, and if they've been murdered to a degree or have been murdered, I think that there are ways that the deceased will try and communicate with you and let you know who it is that actually did either the murder or committed the crime.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is just one of those experiences that I look at when I think about what it is that has actually transpired. And this was oh my gosh, I just look at this family and they become very good friends. And I've talked to us a number of times, and this guy, it was amazing to me the amount of money that he was pumping into the community in which he lived.
Mm-hmm.
So truly a very good guy, and his wife the same. But to have, so do you want to know the motive?
Yes, I was going to ask.
Okay, so the motive behind the whole thing was them, because remember, he had started a business dealing with this guy's father. So in that contract that they had, he was to be awarded whatever the dealing was. The guy that was shot and killed would only take 30% of whatever the initial profits were, and he could take 70% for the first year. So after the first year, my friend only took 25%, giving the other guy 75%.
Mm-hmm.
The 75% still wasn't good enough. So he went in with a rampage asking that he pay the full amount. And apparently, according to the records, he had paid more than his fair share. So he was killed over a 5% discrepancy. in a contract. Anyway, okay, so back to the story where we're talking about the individual that actually, people will usually say it's either a crime of passion or what do they usually say, love, or I can't remember. Anyway, this was totally off, and they thought they would get away with it. And I don't know how they figured they would get any more money by
what the
killing
heck?
one of the main proponents of the contract.
Yeah.
So it was people when they get angry, and so they do things
angry and irrational.
Yeah, they do things that are a little different. So anyway, I think that that's an important story to include. Only the reason that I included that is because of the oddness. I guess the ability to actually see a name, and for some reason, okay, I liken it to this. If I was looking at buying a specific car, and you never noticed the car before, but now you're looking at buying that car, and you see
it everywhere.
Everywhere. And so same thing, I likened it to the name. It's a name that was very common. And so you never really paid much attention to it until it was brought to your attention. Anyway, so what are your thoughts on that story, Holly?
That one really reminded me of our unresolved anger episode. Yeah, the deceased individuals, it does feel like, especially if something nefarious is going on, they do have a lot of influence and a lot of say in how things get handled, or they're trying to bring anyone who is close to them, who would have reason to interact with them post-death, to their attention.
Yeah. So in as tragic as this occurrence was, where both husband and wife were killed, and I think that the main initial point was to try and keep her hostage. To where he was going to do something to help them, as opposed to him showing up unexpectedly, and then
they weren't expecting that.
Yeah. I think that they were just going to try and kidnap her or make her hostage so that he would bend to their will. And I think that their total plan changed. Yeah. So I don't know, the more and more I think about it, I was talking to a family earlier this week, and she was talking to me about something very interesting that just took place in her home, where we cremated her mother, and she was on the other side of the house, and her mother had this particular habit of clearing her throat and then yelping. So something like this.
Oh, what?
I know. She mentioned it. She tried to show it to me. She tried to tell me exactly the way she did it. And I'm trying to mimic it. I'm not 100%. But anyway, she said, and here it is 2 weeks after her passing. And this is another woman just came in to talk to me. 2 weeks or so after her passing. And I'm in the kitchen, and all of a sudden I hear a clearing of the throat and a yelp. And I said, "Oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't."
You better not. Immediately that.
No hesitation at all. She said, I put my spoon down. And I said, "Oh, no, you don't."
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, I just think that there are people that once they pass away, and if they want to communicate, they're going to find some way of communicating.
They're going to find something.
Yeah, and whether we want to hear it or just shoot it right down, I don't know.
Oh, no. You will not be haunting me today.
Oh, that's funny. Or ever. Oh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was so funny. One more question with the story is, did you ever find that there was a reason to have that name in your prep room or in your notebook, or was it just completely unrelated?
Totally unrelated. As a matter of fact, I had I went back through 1 week's material as far as deaths were concerned, and that passed through the mortuary, and that name never appeared once. And I even waited for a week after, and I'm just thinking, okay, so there's no there was no real reason for me to have seen that name.
Yeah.
And so I just chalked it up to, okay, I just helped bring to attention this name to the family, and they had already been on top of it, but just in case, maybe the individual that passed away was making sure that they didn't get away with it.
Right.
So anyway, I wish that all all homicide scenes were that easy. And I'm not saying that was easy. I'm just saying that.
Right, but it was tied with a pretty bow. We know we got the guys that did it. And
do you think maybe it's because it wasn't their time?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, I think there are some people that die because, well, they knew they were probably either on a hit list or someone was actually out for their death or their murder. But in this case, totally innocent. And I think that I don't know. I play, and see, this is what happens. I play these scenarios through my mind all the time. And sometimes when I start thinking about it, it weighs a little heavy on my mind, but it'd be interesting if I could hear from coffiners and knowing what they might think, or if they've experienced something after someone passed away tragically, whether it be an auto accident, fire, homicide, inadvertent, something like that, where the person was the friendliest guy or girl in the world and had no reason to believe that their life was in danger and jeopardy at all.
Right.
So it would be interesting to hear. And I don't know if you find this episode interesting or not, but this is part of that Coffin Talking, where we're talking about individuals that, I guess the individuality of death and how personal it can become, and how, man, if we're aware of it, individuals can still help us understand what it is that took place.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
And honestly, that goes for a lot of the stories. I would say most of the stories that you've told. Specifically this is tied to this individual, and they either have a message or they want to get something across before it feels settled.
Yeah. I like that, before it feels settled. So always keep your eyes open. And death is an interesting thing, and I can never say this enough, coffiners. Death is interesting enough to know if you open your eyes after a death, something's going to happen to where you are aware of what. Either they're still in existence, or that they're trying to have you help them in some way or another, or even just words or feelings of comfort. Which we felt as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great closing point. And if you do have any experiences like this, where it does feel like someone was taken too soon, and any follow-ups from that individual that you have received, we'd love to hear about it. So please email us at letsbefrank@coffintalkin.com, or send us a DM on Instagram @coffintalkin, and we will talk with you next week.
Thanks, coffiners. Have a great week.